Introducing the epic new Swift. Time to go swifting.
Goodness, how good was that Afghanistan? They showed at last year's ODI World Cup that they are becoming a force to reckon with. They have announced themselves in the opening week of this T20 World Cup with a statement win over New Zealand. They beat New Zealand by 84 runs, handing New Zealand a heavy defeat to launch their 2024 Men's T20 World Cup campaign. We look back at that contest from Providence in Guyana, which could have serious implications in Group C. Welcome to Maruti Suzuki Arena, presents ESPN Cricket 4 Timeout. We're in the company of Mitchell McLennigan. Mitch, thank you for your time. Couldn't have been an easy watch from a Kiwi perspective. New Zealand, a side who pride themselves in not losing to teams ranked below them, especially at the big men's events. And yet, you have to wonder, given the domination that Afghanistan showed, that you can't really use a tag of upset or shock over here.
I think anyone with any cricketing nous and knowing how Afghanistan have been playing previously probably looked at that fixture a couple of months ago and said, geez, this is going to be tough for New Zealand. And you'd expect them still to get across the line, but you're expecting that Afghanistan were going to put up a fight, but they put up more than a fight. They were dominant right from the outset. And yes, they were helped by New Zealand. New Zealand was sloppy. They really were. They looked rusty from the outset. Drop catch in the deep. Ibrahim got dropped by Finn Allen. You can't, when guys are in form like that, you can't give them a second chance. And the missed run out of Gurbaz as well. Conway, mishandling that throw from Matt Henry. Those moments are huge because if you look at the Afghanistan side, their middle order is definitely the weaker part of their whole side. So, if you made early inroads and got those two dismissals, it could have been a different story.
Yeah, so many aspects of this game to tuck into, but we have to start with the chase. New Zealand 75 all-out, their fourth lowest all-out total in men's T20Is. You spoke about the concerns you had around so many of that batting order not having had a lot of game time in the months coming in, and through that chase, that rustiness showed itself out glaringly.
Yeah, didn't it? And also, my biggest fear was that Conway and Williamson would be at the crease together early, and it took one ball. Finn Allen, and a chase like that, yes, it was a surface where you had to dominate in the power play to give yourself the best chance, and Afghanistan got a good total. But you still got to give yourself a couple of balls because we did see in the first innings a couple of balls went under. There was a little bit of variation, so still had to be relatively smart. And you're right, Conway showed that he was incredibly out of touch. And if you look at it, the side that they went in with, potentially they made a few mistakes in terms of selection. In hindsight, now we can probably look back and go, Rachin Ravindra played most of the IPL, was in good form at the start and actually ended up with that 50 in the playoff games. He probably would have been a better option to open.
Yeah, and even if you look down that order, if you see a batting card where there are two scores in double digits, extras at 10 being the third highest, that tells you a tale of just how far you've been in the contest.
Yeah, absolutely. It also showed that the only batsman who got into double digits was Glenn Phillips, and he's played a lot of times in the CPL. He's got the most experience in the Caribbean. He knows the conditions, knows to go about his work, and the only other person who's really played over there is Kane Williamson. And Jimmy Neesham, who wasn't even in the side. So, those are the things you've got to look at. And to turn down a couple of warm-up games when you've got a lot of players who haven't played, sat on the bench in the IPL. Finn Allen, in his case, didn't go to Pakistan with a back injury. All these guys haven't played in the last month or so, and then also haven't played in the Caribbean. To turn down those two warm-up games is, to me, mind-blowing and should be really put under scrutiny.
Yeah, as much as we put the scrutiny on the Kiwi batters, it did take an incredible bowling effort to make them look perhaps as insipid as they did. And it started with Fazal Haq Farooqi, who's having himself quite the World Cup, Mitch. 9 for 26 in 2 games so far. That 5 for against Uganda, you felt like it was a function of the Gulf of class, but he showed himself to be so strong and so much superior even against this New Zealand top order with the new ball.
Oh, look, he's class. He's world class. He keeps on getting better and better every year. His ability to swing the ball both ways at the top is phenomenal. And if you go back 12 months, you'd probably say he was a little bit loose with his outswinger to the right-handers, and he's really refined that since ILT 20, and then obviously working at Hyderabad, on those skills. He looked accurate in both of these games, and when you're getting that starting from a similar line, you don't really get too many cues to be able to pick which way it's going, and particularly if you don't have the game time, you're going to take advantage of that. So Fazil Farooqi, he's been a real find for Afghanistan. I thought Naveen was good again. And then obviously the spinners, they just came in and dominated.
Yeah. Platform was laid by Fazal Farooqi, 3 for 17 in his 3 power play overs. And then enter the Afghan captain, and he was all over New Zealand's middle order like a rash.
Yep, like a Rashid Khan, wasn't he? He was brilliant. To get Kane early, who spent the last couple of months with them at Gujarat Titans, who would have faced him a lot in the nets. That was a key wicket, really was. It exposed a lot of inexperienced players to Rashid Khan in tough conditions. And what I must say is that the way Afghanistan played spin in the middle and a lot of the bowling today, they looked straight, particularly Gurbaz. He looked to hit the sight screen. And I think New Zealand were guilty on trying to play too square and against Rashid and against Noor Ahmed. I think in those conditions, you've got to play as straight as you possibly can, as long as you can. And that's game time that they haven't had in those conditions, coming from good conditions in Pakistan where it doesn't really turn too much, or in New Zealand where you can play spinners like medium paces. So, a combination of that, but Rashid Khan looked back to his best.
Yeah, and so the bowlers were spectacular, but in the first half, it was Rahmanullah Gurbaz who made the runs in the opening win for Afghanistan against Uganda, 80 of 56 in this game. And really, you look through the rest of the Afghan batting card, barring Ibrahim Zadran and, of course, the New Zealand batting, and Gurbaz has stood himself in a different league in this game.
Yeah, he has. And I was a little bit nervous. I was nervous for Afghanistan's batting because there was a period where their Bracewell and Lockie Ferguson really tied them down, and they did well to negotiate that period. There was a 4-over period which went for 11, and they got through that. And I know they're not historically a great batting side in those middle phases from 7 to 15. And I thought the next 5-over period where Gurbaz really went after Bracewell and a few of the other bowlers. So they took 5 overs there for 51, 1 for 51, those next 5 overs. And that, to me, was the turning point in the game. They could have easily lost a couple of wickets in those first 4 overs where they struggled, but to really bounce back, really assert some dominance in the middle, and Gurbaz really led that to his side.
Yeah, despite not losing a wicket in the first 10, Afghanistan were 55 for no loss, which is among the lower scores you can have without losing a wicket in the first 10. But then the next 3 overs go for 42. That opening partnership has pretty much done all the scoring for them. 257 runs in the 2 opening partnerships between Gurbaz and Ibrahim Zadran. So it's clear that they hold the aces for the Afghan batting.
Oh, they are the key. Absolutely, they are. And first 2 games have highlighted that. And they're going to have to continue to do that if Afghanistan are really going to extend their run into the playoffs, if they can get past the West Indies. And I think they really look really good in terms of the platform they've been laying. Both of their openers are in good form. It's interesting one. If you're in opposition, you really need to target those 2 and try and take some chances to get early wickets, because their middle order, while they are all very good players and accomplished players, they are hitting all-rounders. And in these conditions, hitting all-rounders may struggle to build an innings. So you're right. A lot of the run scoring rests on the opener's shoulders.
The margin and the manner of this defeat means that there is so much riding now for New Zealand. West Indies up next for them, and can't underline enough just how massive that game becomes now.
Yep, it's crazy, isn't it? You wouldn't have thought after one game New Zealand is knocking on the back door out of the World Cup. So you're absolutely right. I think the only thing in their favour is that West Indies really struggled against Papua New Guinea. So their net run rate hasn't got out of hand like Afghanistan's has in the 2 games that they've played. So, if they can get across the line against the West Indies, which is going to be tough, it's going to be in Trinidad, very familiar conditions for a lot of the West Indies players. If they can get up in that game, that'll be one of the best bounce backs of all time. It really will be, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to come out firing. They're going to have to find ways to maybe tinker with that side to be able to get good matchups to some of their players. Maybe Ishodi coming in so he can attack Nicholas Puran early. Maybe bringing form players in like Racham Ravindra, Neesham coming into that lower order instead of, say, a Mark Chapman. They're going to have to make some changes if they're going to get a different result.
Yeah, it's into knockout territory pretty much for New Zealand, but that bodes well because they are a side who've shown over the last decade when it comes to the men's global events that they do make the cut when it comes to knockout games. So let's see which New Zealand turns up in Tarouba in some days' time. Thank you so much, Mr. McLennigan, for your company. Afghanistan, on the other hand, with a net run rate of 5.2, putting themselves in the driver's seat in the group of death.
Introducing the epic new Swift. Time to go swifting.